Today I'm talking with Jeff Provost about the WannaCry virus. Unfortunately, Jeff had the WannaCry virus attack him and his business in the past, and he's going to share his experiences and some of the lessons he learnt from that situation. Welcome, Jeff. I'm glad that you've come along and you'll speak openly about your experiences. Jeff, it's a discussion today is about ransomware, and I thank you for your willingness to talk about having been through the experience with WannaCry ransomware. Can I firstly start off with understanding behind most of these exploits, criminals use email messages that encourage you to click on the message and redirect you to sites. Is that what happened to you?
They sent me an email that purported to be from AGL, who was at that time my electricity gas supplier. The email arrived pretty much on the day when the email normally arrived. It looked just like the invoice that I normally received. It was addressed to me, and in all respects it just looked like the normal invoice, except that the amount was a lot more than normal. And it was only because the amount was a lot more than normal that I paid any attention to it and made the fatal mistake of clicking on it. And once you click on it, you've got problems.
Yes. Okay, so can you tell me more about why, say, you didn't recognise what was going on at that point? I understand that you were quite busy and that was a distraction.
Yes, on that particular day I had a client about to arrive. No, I knew they were parking their car about to come in, so there was a minute or two lapse. Just in that period where I was ready for the client, just waiting for them to arrive, that's when the email arrived. So I had just a moment of time while the client was coming in to see this email and be distracted by it. Had it arrived when I wasn't otherwise distracted, I would have probably looked more carefully at the sender details. Because I've been very aware of spyware and viruses and the potential havoc that they can cause, and I've always been very careful. On this occasion, it got past my guard because I was distracted.
Okay, so I would guess that one of the things you could say is be careful not to make decisions in haste. I think I can say myself that it's very easy when you've got a number of things to do, you rush through it in preference. And if there's a link like you had, you need to have enough time to double check it rather than click on it.
Yes, if you're not expecting the email itself, or even if there is something about the email that you're not expecting, don't open it unless you are really sure what you're doing. Even though it might look as something that you're expecting, it could well be a Trojan horse.
And I think you're right. We're all as humans, we're easily changed in our feelings when we see things that are different, that we can be triggered by it. And obviously that's the way they're working to be able to get our interest up. Now, from an understanding of how much control you had over your PC, do you log in as an administrator or is it just as a normal user account?
Just as a normal user. That particular PC also had administrator.
Okay, so it doesn't matter what level you're at, you've really got to be careful because you'll still get hacked. So people that say, oh, okay, I'm not an administrator, it doesn't make as big a difference, that's a bit of a furphy from what I'm hearing.
Took out the whole system. Once it's in it squirrels its way through everything.
And you had antivirus and the other.
Yes, I had antivirus.
Firewalls.
I didn't have firewalls, yes, but I didn't have spyware. And the problem with the WannaCry, apparently, was that it was spyware. I certainly have spyware now.
Okay. So from your perspective on getting tools, what was the difference with what you had at the time and what you have now? You've said you've got antivirus and you've got spyware. Was there any other things that you found you needed to make sure you had?
Well, I have a lot of backup now. I had backup before, but unfortunately I'd only recently backed up. I had an external hard disk connected to the computer, and I only recently backed it up. What I hadn't done was disconnect the hard disk from the computer. So the WannaCry virus got into the hard disk and destroyed that as well, encrypted everything. And so all my current information as at the day of the attack was encrypted. It was potentially a major issue.
So if you look forward to today, what's the difference with the way you do backups now to what you did then?
Oh, well, now I use, of course I have the spyware, and of course I'm additionally alert, but now I also back up to another, I keep backing up to the hard drive, the external hard drive, but I also have a cloud backup now. I use Microsoft OneDrive, so everything's backed up now in 3 places, and I've got 2 computers.
Okay, so if, and God forbid that it happen, if for whatever reason they improve their abilities to attack you, is your backup in a position that they can't be attacked at the same time?
I don't see how that could happen with the 2 computer systems. You have to open both of them would have to be fall subject to it, and also having the cloud solution as well, plus the OneDrive. I mean, you know.
No, that's good, because I think people have to recognise that they need to have more than one thing in play, and it sounds like you've got a series of backups, you've got a better security system than you had. So were there any other lessons that you learnt from it that you either took notice of or you recognised maybe could be used if you're in a different environment?
Well, keeping backups current is very, very important, and this is where it was an expensive exercise for me, because I really lost about 18 months of data. And running a legal practice, that's a big deal, because the files you're working on today are your current, obviously your current files. They're the ones that really do matter. Now, I had changed over to the computer that was affected in June 2016. I'd only been using since November 2014, so it's about an 19-month period that I've been using it. I still had the old computer before that, so I was able to copy across everything up until November 2014 from the old computer systems. That was no problem. All the accounting records, all the old files, precedents, it was all there. It was no problem. But all the current files that happened in that immediate 18 months before, they were all effectively lost. So I had to recreate them. Now, fortunately, I'm in the practice of sending to the client every document that comes in, every email that comes in on their matter, every document for their approval, every letter, etc. And so the clients had a lot of the documents, and they were able to send them back to me, and I was effectively able to recreate the current files with the client's help.
Okay, I suppose this is a tough question, but when you made the decision to not take up the ransomware offer, did you do it after looking at how you could recover, or did you do it as a statement of not wanting to be caught by any ransomware and not giving in to them?
Well, I knew what my own options were as I considered what to do about the demand for the ransomware. So it's not that I was aware of one fact and then became aware of the other. The whole idea of paying money to criminals is just anathema to me. I'd rather make a donation to the security forces to go and deal with them wherever they are in the world than to make a donation to these criminals. You'd have no idea, of course, what could be my money could be used for some terrible purpose. It just is absolutely contrary to my whole being. I wouldn't do it. And if I had to bear a loss, and in this case I did, I just have to accept that and just get on with life as best I can and make sure I don't fall foul again.
Okay, now what I've picked up, and I'll just clarify, is when you were attacked, it was only on one computer.
Yes.
And it was, yeah. At that point, did you have a network connection to any other computers? or what was it?
Just to the hard drive backup. No, I didn't at that stage. That's correct.
Okay, so do you at this point?
No, I don't. I've got 2 computers, but they're not networked.
Okay,
I do that deliberately. There's no need for me to network them.
Do you use one computer to go out to the outside world and one for internal, or do you?
Mainly, I've got a newer computer now. It's a very efficient little tablet, and I use it's fast, and I use that for most of my communications. Very light and easy to use.
Okay.
The other laptop, I keep all my accounting records on.
Okay, so you, as well as putting in the better security and the backup systems, you've also defined a clear area where you communicate and where you do some behind the scenes stuff like your accounting, so that your risk mitigation, I suppose,
That's right.
you've got some more strategies in place.
Yes, I do.
That's good. What was, if you can talk about the actual amount that they were asking for, what was the figure that they were looking at?
Yeah, it was about $1,000.
Okay.
And they wanted it paid in Bitcoin.
So what did you do with your computer? It was encrypted.
Yes.
So did you get someone to start from scratch and rebuild the computer? What happened after you decided that you weren't going to pay the ransom?
Well, it was expensive, but with my computer guy coming in and initially trying to, he thought he could set the date back and recover the data from the point before the attack. Now, he's unable to do that. The WannaCry virus was too clever for that. And that's why ultimately we just had to wipe the hard drive. I had to in fact entirely replace the hard drive of that computer.
Okay, so that's a safer strategy. Obviously, even if you wiped it, you wouldn't have been sure that there wasn't some mechanism that would keep something there.
Well, in fact, he got it going for a while, and then a couple of months later there was some random virus attack and the whole thing just collapsed again. So I concluded by that stage that whatever it was that we were doing wasn't working, and I just had to bite the bullet. It was very expensive, but I just had to get everything back to start.
Yeah. So I suppose another lesson you could pass on to people is it's not just losing your data, you actually probably have to replace part of your equipment or all of your equipment.
I had to replace the hard drive for several $1,000s to replace effectively replace the hard drive, and then of course it's the time of your computer advisors to come in and help you reload all the relevant data and rebuild your systems, all your file directories, everything has to be redone.
So if you were to state the $1,000 is not nice, as you said, you don't want to pay the criminals, but the other thing people have to recognise is the amount of time you've lost plus the amount of money you need to pay out to get yourself back to square one.
That's right. It's very expensive exercise.
So I suppose part of that is if people look and say, oh, it's expensive to buy my new software and keep it up to date, and it might be $200, $300, $400, $500 depending on what they're paying, it's a damn sight cheaper than paying thousands of dollars to replace your equipment and recover.
That's right.
And where does brand get impacted? In your case, you're a small business.
That's right.
You have loyal customers. How do you think that would have gone if you were just starting out in business and you didn't have the customer base with such loyalty?
It would have been catastrophic, I would think. But thankfully, I've been in business now for 17 years, running my own practice, and I know the clients, and they'll cut me a bit of slack. I don't know of anybody who's left me because of this, people have been very generous of spirit in understanding that really this is the sort of thing that can happen in the world today.
Yeah. Do you think some of your customers actually got a benefit by learning and understanding that they needed to maybe improve their systems because of the experience you went through?
Well, they're certainly aware. I couldn't hide it. It happened. I had to be candid with people about what had happened. And no one said to me, oh, because of what happened to you, I've now done this. But I've certainly spoken with plenty of people about the experience and encourage people to take steps in their own interests.
So you could say you've raised their awareness. If they choose to do something, or they at least had a look at what their systems were to see whether they were robust enough, it helped in that respect.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So if you were to put a dollar figure and a time figure on effort, where do you think that would be from your perspective?
Gosh, I haven't actually done that, because it'd probably cause me to become a bit upset about it if I thought about it. It'll be north of 10 grand. It would, but just in the money I've actually paid out, to computer advisors coming in, having to buy new software, the licenses associated with that. When the computer failed completely the second time, that cost me $2,000 just in Hong Kong at no notice when that happened. That was just on that part of it. And then the time of rebuilding it all really again. That's apart from my own time.
Would you put your own time at tens of hours, hundreds of hours?
It's maybe not hundreds, but it's certainly tens, and it's certainly more than 20.
Okay, so I think people need to understand, if they take shortcuts because they look at it and they say, well, it's not going to be risky, it won't happen to me, that they've got to realise that there's a real downside. And it's quite easy to get caught. It's not like they're unsophisticated. They're very much targeting, and the more likely you are to click is the more likely that it represents something that you are doing. So if someone has an energy supplier or a telecom supplier or whatever else, and it just happens to correlate that it's their energy supplier with the false email, and they're under a time pressure, there's a very good chance that they'll click it. So the real message is, when you are under pressure and you see an email, don't touch it.
Definitely. When you see an email, don't touch it, that's right.
Because human nature is we'll rush, and my saying is act in haste, repent at leisure. Correct. Meaning that we easily make mistakes and it's a lot harder to fix them. Okay. What advice would you give to EIT forum members and just small business in general from your experience over the Watacry virus and the after effects of that?
Well, number one, have up-to-date spyware. That's really important. Number two, have up-to-date backup systems. Have multiple backup systems and make sure that they're not able to be mutually infected. Number three, be eternally vigilant. It's the price you have to pay for being in business today. And in fact, to just about do anything that involves the use of our wonderful internet and computer system. It's a terrific resource, but be forever aware that there are risks and that not everybody's trying to do you good.
Thank you, Jeff. We really appreciate you being so candid about your experience, and I hope that people watching this recognise that it's very easy to get caught by sophisticated hackers who are out there trying to do us damage all the time. Thank you, Jeff.
It's okay.